Hi and welcome back to my channel. In about a month, we are going to have .NET Conf 2021 and they are going to launch .NET 6 and it is a 3-day event with lots of .NET developers and managers. But today, if you are going to use .NET, you can use .NET 6 RC1, which is more likely feature complete. I think we are going to have an RC2 version soon, and after that there will be the final release of .NET 6. So it's a good time to take a look on what is happening in .NET 6 and what are the main changes. I have the latest version installed. We have 2022 preview 4.1, which enables me to create and use the latest version of ASP.NET Core projects. So let's create a new project, we have application 19, and now let's pick .NET 6 preview. Let's install it with minimum template and see what is happening. So we have the new project instantly created, and now the first thing is we don't have a startup.cs. Let's take a look at program.cs, and immediately you see that a lot has changed in this file. First, we don't see any classes or async void main or any usings, and that's because in C#9 there is a new feature called top level statements that I talked about this before in my channel, and with this new feature you don't need to have namespace class or a static void main in your program.cs file, and you can just add a using and start using code like this, or you can also get rid of this using and use the namespace directly and access the write line method in console. So that explains why this file is has no indentation and there's no scopes, but it doesn't explain why there is no namespaces, there's no usings in this file. And for that, we need to take a look at C#10 features. And here you have global using directive. In global using directive, you can have a global modifier in a file, and you add usings in a global manner in one file, and every other C# file in your project can see this global using and use it. And it's kind of like what we do right now with view imports, that we add a using in a file, and we can use this using in every view or Razor page file that we have. It's like that, but it doesn't work exactly like this. It's the same idea, if you may. And so because we have global usings now, they didn't have to add a using here, and there are a couple of ways that you can add global using. First, add a global file here, any C# file, and add usings using global modifier, which I'm going to talk soon in a later video. But for now, the question is, where are all the namespaces? Because things like create builder and build and environment are all using different namespaces. If we take a look at older projects of ASP.NET Core, like ASP.NET Core 5, you can see that for any program.cs, we need builder, hosting, and extension hosting namespaces, and these are not defined anywhere in this project, which brings us to a csproj file, and even here we don't see any namespaces included. So seems like they have put it in SDK somewhere. So when you are using SDK of web, these namespaces are included in your project by default, and you don't have to use them or add using for them. Here I have access to things like file info. If I add a new file info like this, you see that file info works just fine because system.io is globally introduced to my project by this new feature, and we have system.io by default included in this file. You can have your own class globally identified. Let's add a test class with a test method, public void check, and this does nothing. And if I want to use this class directly in my program.cs, I can come here and add new test like this, but it doesn't work. I need to add the namespace like web application 19.test, but we can introduce this namespace globally using csproj file. And let's go here, item group, and add the using and include this namespace. And now I can get rid of this part and use test directly. Can be any namespace, and you can just come here and add an item group for using. Using has some options. You can add aliases and exclude a namespace, things like that, which I'm going to talk about in a different video. But for now, let's go back to our program.cs and remove these parts. So this is what we have right now. We don't see any startup.cs file. In earlier versions like ASP.NET Core 5 and before, we had an startup.cs file that looked like something like this, and there was a configure services and a configure method. This we injected services, and here we used and modified or configured the middlewares, but they are all in the same file right now. Services are injected here and middlewares are here. So there is a shift in the way we are going to use a startup and program.cs, but you can always go back and use the old way. If you migrate your old projects to .NET 6, there will be no problem. And if you want to use the old way with a startup, that is still possible. You just need to add some configuration. I will talk about migrations also in a different video. But for now, we see that everything in a startup and program.cs are mixed together in one file. It's good to know that you can use a wait here for task or delay. That's because the main file that we are using, the main method here is async. Async main was introduced in earlier versions of C#9, and it is by default what we have for program.cs. So working with async methods is pretty easy. Next, you can see that working with environment is different now. Before we had to have like a property like this for configure method to access a web host environment, but here in the new program.cs file we can use app. After we build the app, we can use environment under app and access the its development or any other environment values that we need. Working with configuration is pretty much the same. I can have configs like this and use app.configuration to access the configuration. I can use configs and get connection strings. This is what we usually use with Entity Framework and SQL Server. And the other thing that we can also do is using logger. I can have a logger and use app.logger to access the logging system and log information. I am running, and let's remove this. We don't need this one at this point, and let's run the project. My application is running, and here is my log, so everything is working just fine. Of course, what I explain here is just the first look and the first differences that you notice when you create a new project with ASP.NET Core 6. And there are a lot more to talk about, which we are going to do soon in the next video. Thanks for watching, and talk to you soon.